I Do Damage, and welcome back to the channel. In this Ortharion project video, I want to talk about this indie ARPG that is developed by a solo person. This game does some very interesting things and also has a few drawbacks. But this is a game that I kind of stumbled upon, and I've been kind of just low-key been playing it on the side. And I want to just tell you about it just so you're aware of this little indie game. The Ortharion project, the biggest highlight of the whole game is that it's very accessible. You have almost full control over your character movement, camera, and also I would say world exploration. There's a lot of interesting things, but before we get to all the good stuff, I just want to do a little disclaimer up front, just so that you are aware before you go ahead and spend $19.99 on this game. And it's the controls. This game is not going to be for everyone. You're either going to hate the controls or you're going to get used to them. So, real quick, the controls on our Ortharion project are WASD movement, which is totally fine. We're used to that by now. And you have your middle mouse is your camera control, and you have full control over this thing. But what's really kind of strange, and it feels odd at times, is in order to attack, you actually aim with your mouse cursor. You actually aim your attacks. I've seen other games do it, but there's just something in this game that just feels a little bit different. And I don't know if it's bad or good. I can't quite really put my finger on it, but it's there. Either you're going to hate the combat or you'll adapt to it, as I said. I gave the game about an hour before I finally really kind of embraced the controls. And at this point now, I love just speeding through, running around, and killing stuff. It's actually really fun. But I wanted to make you aware of that one big kind of elephant in the room type of deal about Ortharion Project. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the number one thing that I find the most interesting in this game, and that is progression. Progression comes in two forms. You have account-wide and character progression. The account-wide is you find these Ortharion fragments. They're these hidden objects throughout the world, and when you find one, you then unlock it for your entire account. So you only have to find these things once. They're in static locations. I mean, you could look up a guide and find them all if you wanted to. But while you're gathering these fragments, the more you obtain, the different things you can unlock within the game. You can unlock things like being able to level up your skills, being able to rank up your skills. Once you've found enough fragments, you can even find epic and legendary items. So that's the account-wide progress. But the thing is, if you start a new character, these are also tied not only behind fragment requirements, but the character level. So each new character you're then going to have to level up in order to actually unlock these features. Another one that you can even unlock using the fragments is the skill tree. So I definitely think that it's an interesting system. The next part of progression is your character and skills. This is really interesting to me, and I almost feel as though it's a little bit unbalanced in a way. But let me describe it to you real quick. So the way that you learn skills in Ortharion Project is by finding scrolls on the ground. In order to use these scrolls, there's going to have a stat requirement. They're going to have an item type that is exclusive for that skill. So, for example, you're not going to be able to use a bow type of skill with a sword, right? That just doesn't make sense. But anyway, you use the scroll, you then learn the skill, put it on your bar, and that's basically how skills work in the game. But what gets weird is there's a max level, I think, of 25. But every 5 skill levels, which you just pay gold to level it up, but you don't level it up through XP or anything like that, you pay gold. Like, there's a lot of gold sinks in this game. This is one of them. But every 5 levels, you can then rank it up for a max rank of rank 5. And in order to rank them up, you have to have scrolls that you've then used, like scrolls that you found from spells that maybe you didn't want to use, or just simply you already maybe learned. You then convert these into blank scrolls, and there's different qualities. The amount of scrolls that you need to rank up skills, I think, is very steep. But I don't know if that's just a balancing issue, or maybe it's really meant to be a big grinder game. I don't know. Anyway, I think my highest ranked skill after like 14 hours of playtime is like maybe rank 2 or 3. I haven't put a ton of time in, but there's a lot to grind. But that's pretty much it for progression and kind of the character and account-wide progression. The last thing I want to note before we get back into the combat and world is on that account-wide progression, you also have to find these enough fragments to unlock the endgame modes, which there's a procedurally generated dungeon. It goes up to level 999, which is, I mean, insane. I think the highest you're probably going to be able to do is like maybe 100, and even that's going to be, you're going to have really optimal gear for that. But you have pretty much the endless dungeon, and then you also have the arena. Those are your 2 endgame modes. I just wanted to put that out there so that you know that in order to unlock those, you do have to actually find the fragments. So since we're kind of talking about fragments and how they tie into progression, I want to talk about world next. This is probably my favorite part of the game, really, is the exploration and finding those fragments. My very first playthrough in character, I wanted to find the fragments. That was #1 priority for me, just to get it out of the way, right? So these fragments are hidden in secret locations in the world that, you know, for me, I could look at the map and kind of guess, like, okay, there's probably one here, one here, one here. And, you know, 90% of the time I was right. There's a few that have tripped me up and I still haven't found yet. But it just makes exploring the world that much more rewarding. But this is the downside of that. So once you have found all these fragments, they don't respawn or reappear, and there's just nothing where they used to be. So there's really, once you've done it once, there's no point in really exploring, since you already know where the quest is, and you know where the next dungeon is going to be. It kind of makes playing through alt characters feel a little bit stale and unexciting at times, just due to the sole fact that there's nothing there. Like, I think it'd be cool if, once you've found these fragments, like, those locations could summon like a rare mob, or maybe they summon a rare chest, or they have some sort of random thing so that you still want to kind of go check out those hidden areas once again. But when it comes to world, I've really enjoyed the exploration type of stuff, and there's even a little bit of puzzling in there. The puzzles are nothing complex. I was even able to solve all of them, so there's that. Last but not least, and I wanted to talk about this at the beginning of the video, and I kind of touched it with controls, but I kind of saved it towards the end because there's a lot kind of to this, and this is the combat, kind of the feel of the game. This is usually my #1 deciding factor for a hack and slash ARPG, is the combat. Is it fun to play? Are the fights engaging? Is the moment-to-moment combat enjoyable? And, you know, I saved best for last, and that's what I did here in this video. So, how do I say this? Combat in Ortharion Project feels more like an MMO than a hack and slash type game, which isn't bad. The only thing is it's a single player game, and I don't even think multiplayer is planned. I asked the developer and he said if it's easy enough to implement, he would consider it. But I think that this game, what it really needs to be on the next level, aside from bug fixing and, you know, general early access issues, I think it really needs multiplayer. I mean, the world is so big, there's so many different dungeons, and there's just so many things that I would love to do with a pal or two, you know, and be able to group up. A full-blown MMO would be badass for this game. I just don't think that that's in the scope for this solo developer. But anyway, it is what it is, and I think it all boils down to the combat and the way that you kind of aim skills and the mob placement even. They're like you would find in an MMO, like there's packs of mobs. You know, overall it feels more like an MMO than a true hack and slash ARPG. But at the end of the day, the combat, once you get used to the controls and everything, is kind of rewarding in a way. There's certainly balance issues. I just got done playing for like an hour and a half, made a brand new character, and I blasted through all the content with one spell. It was so insanely overpowered. It's a channeled ability around your character where you shoot out these flames, and it just decimated everything, man. I mean, I cleared like the first 2 dungeons basically without dying. So, and then there's other classes and skills that are a little bit more weak as well. Speaking of classes, I almost forgot, in Ortharion Project, there are 3 classes. You have an archer, warrior, wizard. And then each of those can then evolve into a choice of 3. And then each of those can then evolve into another choice of 3. So I think that leaves you with, what, like 27 different like evolution classes or whatever you want to call it. They're really not different at all. At least not this early in the early access and beta, whatever you want to call it. That's honestly why I forgot to mention it, because they're not really interesting. The only thing that really differentiates classes is their usable skills that they can actually equip. Like a wizard can use a high fire skill, you know, an archer can use a cannon type thing. Different things like that. That's all it really is the types of skills that you can use. I mean, heck, even the talent tree is the same for all 3 classes. I don't know. I would like to see the classes be a bit more impactful, and as you can tell, I almost forgot to tell you about it. That's how unimportant the classes are to me. Well, you know, I've played all 3, and I gotta say, I think it's called Prowler. It's basically an archer, is by far the most overpowered. So far, anyway. One other little minor complaint I have with Ortharion Project is the translation. about 75% of it is in English. There's an option for English and French. I know the developer is French, and that's his native language. So I'm not hating or anything like that. Just something you should be aware of. Like 30% of the game is in French, and you're not going to know what it says. You're just going to have to kind of guess based on context, but not a deal breaker for me. I look past it. Hopefully, the developer can get the funds he needs to fund the game, get that translated correctly for us English players, and get all the bug fixes done, man. In closing, I think this game's interesting. If it looks like something you would enjoy, I would consider picking it up. It's $19.99 on Steam. I do feel that that price is a bit steep for its current state of the game. I think if you wanted to do just one playthrough and maybe dabble a little bit in the end game, you could probably get maybe 10 to 15 hours out of the game. But there's a lot more there. There's gear to farm, there's crafting, there's leveling up. There's lots of stuff I didn't cover because I don't want to make the video super long. It's already running over 10 minutes, which I was trying to not do. But hey, man, I could talk about this game forever. Let me know if the game's interesting. If there's something you want to know more about, maybe I can make a video about that. Anyway, I hope that this video was informative and helped you decide if it's something you want to invest your money into or not. If you enjoy all the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.